Hi, everybody. Uh, Good morning and good afternoon and good evening for all of you who are connecting from different countries. I'm Yasas Gunaratna and I'll be hosting the webinar on social media for magicians and entertainers. I hope this webinar would be a very interesting webinar. And what I would do is I would start with the presentation first, and then probably we'll have the question and answer session towards the end. Um, so please bear with me if there are any glitches on technology, but hopefully I hope things will go well. Okay. So let me start sharing the slides with you. Let me just double check whether the slides are viewable. Yeah, that should do it. So once again, welcome to the session, Social Media for Magicians and Entertainers. As I explained, I'm Yasas Gunaratne, and let me start with a brief profile of who I am. I'm a chartered marketer by CIM, that's Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK. And I have been a digital marketing lecturer since 2010, and long before that, in 2004, I started lecturing for marketing, again for the program, the postgraduate diploma in marketing offered by the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK. Currently, I'm working in a different industry altogether. I'm in the Sri Lankan dealership of Toyota, which goes as Toyota Lanka. So nothing to do with digital media, simply because I wanted to make a career change last year. And to talk a bit about my magic history, my brand goes as Night of Illusions. So on the right hand bottom side, what you see is basically my brand. And any of you who are interested to see what kind of stuff I do and basically what I've done in the past, you could follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Google Plus, or Pinterest. And then those are basically the links. So please feel free to follow me and get updated. So basically, this would be the agenda for today. We'll be basically, I'll first talk about what social media is and then why social media at a very high level. And I'll go through a comparison of some of the popular social media platforms or sites with examples of how magicians basically use it, which would be of relevance. Please do understand the webinar is a first of this kind, so I'm going from the basics. So some of you might be using these social media platforms and you might therefore know what I'm talking about. But probably we can have a follow-up session which would go into a bit of detail next time. But today I'll be talking more on the fundamentals, assuming there are a lot of people who do not know about this. Actually, I went through the registration form and it seemed to be like most of you knew about Facebook, but what you were interested were the other social media platforms. Finally, I will open up for the question and answer session. And for this, I would prefer if you could use the chat option if you're connecting through Google Hangouts. Or if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag, which I have defined as KOI, that stands for Night of Illusions. So if you could use that Twitter hashtag and post any questions, I will be happy to answer those questions towards the end. The reason why I've kept the Q&A session towards the end is because I might cover some of your questions during the session, and in order to follow the timeline that I have kind of agreed to, we'll go through the content and have the Q&A session towards the end. Fine. Um, so just to give you a definition of what social media sites are about. If you look at social media, this is a definition given, includes any web and mobile technology which are used to turn communication into an interactive dialogue. It could be between companies or organizations, it could be between communities, could be between individuals. It's any kind of interactive dialogue that you would have through once again web and mobile technology. And if you look at the current scenario, the mobile based technology, the interaction through mobile based technology is increasing drastically even in developing nations, even with people who do not probably have access to computers. There's a huge shift towards mobile based technology. Even in Sri Lanka, we do see, looking at the statistics, even the rural community now is picking up on internet based on mobile. So the important fact, the important point to take into consideration is uh, this is a medium which is actually generated by content of individuals or users who are on social media platforms. So that's the uniqueness about this. If you look at any other medium out there, any other media rather, like television, radio, newspaper, or what you call the below the line advertising, everything is more corporate driven or organization driven, whereas social media is all about user generated content. So on this slide, you can see a vast area of available social media platforms out there, from online magazines to what you call web blogs or actual blogs, to internet forums, microblogging, Wikipedia or wikis rather, sorry, social networks, and name it. This should cover most of the social media platforms out there. So technically, if you are trying to talk about all the social media platforms out there, we would not be able to cover it in this webinar. Okay, just a glance of what's available out. And going on to the point of why social media, and what social media we should focus on. This is again an index, rather a pictorial representative, which was sourced by Global Web Index during the final quarter of 2013. If you look at the bars in black, they are all about the account ownerships, and active usage are denoted by the blue bars. So if you notice, the top three social media platforms are Facebook, YouTube, Google Plus, and this actually covers most of the global users aged from 16 to 64, excluding China. Okay, so you could say it's a global representation. But the important point is, if you take up to the top five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're talking of Facebook, YouTube, Google Plus, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So basically today I'll be covering Facebook, YouTube, Google Plus, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, which I felt was kind of useful for entertainers and magicians to use as a platform. Again, breaking down the details by the Global Web Index. Actually, this report was published on the 21st of January. You would see a breakdown of social media platforms or sites used by internet users by regions. So the first column is from Asia Pacific, Europe, Latin, Middle East, and Africa, and then North America. So what you would see across the world is Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus, and probably at times YouTube are the most commonly used social media platforms, and that's the whole reason why I picked them. And as I explained, I've also taken LinkedIn and Pinterest, and I'll explain why I'm talking about them today. Uh, Again, the top 10 social media platforms, the top 10 and the usage by age. So if you notice, the pink color of the pie charts are on the age groups of 16 to 24, 29, and black. In black you get the 25 to 34 age, and in dark blue 35 to 44, and light blue 45 to 54, and gray 55 to 64. So if you notice, on Facebook, 29%, the majority users are between 25 to 34, YouTube 16 to 24, Google Plus again 25 to 34, followed by Twitter, LinkedIn. But when it comes to Instagram, once again it's 16 to 24, and if you look at something like Tumblr, it's age group 16 to 24. So the important point looking at this is, if you take at a wider range, the most important age ranges that we'll be capturing through social media would be the age ranges from 16 to 44. Yeah, but one of the new findings or the growing areas are again the gray age groups, which are like the 55 to 64. As a result, I think even my parents are on social media. Not that the most preferred type by kids today, but it's you if you would notice the baby boomers, you would find many of them on social media as well. So basically, this is why you need to be on social media. One of the main reasons, because most probably the younger segment and the target market of you would be easily approachable on social media. And one more site, well, sorry, one more statistic, based on the active and non-active usage on the different the top 5 social media groups. In fact, I haven't taken, or this report doesn't take YouTube, but if you look at it, the most uh, active group is on Facebook. Facebook actually has more active users than any other platform we are looking at. Okay, which is 38% are non-active on Facebook, 62% are the active segment, active users on social media, or rather on Facebook. So coming back to why social media, as I mentioned, if you talk about advertising, the advertising industry, they generally talk about above the line advertising and below the line advertising. Social media actually comes into what you would call through the line, because through the line means it always has an interactive element of it. So the best part is social media generally are free of charge, as long as you generate interesting content. The number of followers, the number of people who would be active on your uh, social media platforms would be higher. So it's and that would be free audience. Number two, I would say it's the only or the most active method that you could stay in touch, or you could interact with your end consumers. So for entertainers and magicians, it's quite important, because of course at a particular performance you would interact with them, but to have a one-on-one interaction after and before, this is the best platform. So that is why I would rather suggest anybody to look at social media as opposed to any other costly method of advertising, because it is practically impossible, or practically, it might not make sense unless you're into huge scale performances to go on TV or press or radio, which are the most uh, used forms of advertising, if you look at the effectiveness. But now again, if you look at the global trend, the number of people, the number of viewers on television are reducing due to time constraints, and uh, the possibility of targeting your target market is also reducing, because there are so much of media channels or TV stations out there, and unless you go with the big giants, it is not going to be worthwhile. Same with newspaper and radio. So looking at all these options, social media is the best. And again, it's a good medium to use for you to get feedback. Sometimes we do performances and we do, innovative things, but do we really get a feedback about it? I hardly doubt, because unless we speak to our audience after a performance, we don't get that. But if you're on social media, it's a good platform also to test market. You could try out things, you could post videos, photographs of your new performances, and probably get a feel before you really try it out in the live environment. Okay, so with that, I'll basically move in to a comparison of these different types of social media platforms. Excuse me. Number one, obviously, would be Facebook. A few statistics about Facebook. Uh, Currently, Facebook has 1.31 billion monthly active users, and that's a big audience. Facebook, if you consider as the Facebook population, if you consider it in terms of the population of countries, would stand at number three today. It's like third country that if you take the most populated countries, it stands in third place in terms of ranking. If it's considered as a country, that's how big the Facebook population is. And according to Statistic Brain, where I took these statistics from, there's 1.31 billion monthly active users. So if you do go out there on Facebook, there is a probability and a possibility for you to approach this 1.31 billion, which might not be really practical, but if you even take 1% of it, or if you look at your market, uh, it's still a good number. And approximately 75% of monthly active users are outside US. Might not be the best news for you guys who are connecting from the United States, but maybe it's time for you to look out of US. Why not? Again, if you look at the traditional media out there, it's quite difficult and expensive for you to approach a market out of your country. But again, this is one point why you need to be on social media, because there's a direct medium for you to interact with the people out of your region, your state, your country, your geographic location. Sorry. And actually the statistics were quite recent. So if you look at the number of mobile users have surpassed 600 million on Facebook, which means you're approaching people who are on the go. Because if you look at most of the markets today, people, while they travel out, maybe on public transport or any other form of transport, chances are a majority are connected on their mobile, and they are doing something on their mobile. Mostly it's being on social media. So you have a captive audience out there through the mobile users, and technically these users are users who are not very much onto the traditional media like television or even newspaper. Radio probably, because especially if you drive, if you do use any transport mode, you might probably connect into the radio. But other than that, this is a captive audience who has access to you on their palm. Okay. Some statistics: every 20 minutes on Facebook, 1 million links are shared, 2 million friend requests are out there, and about 3 million messages are sent. If you notice, due to social media like Facebook, the number of emails or number of people who use emails have reduced. Just think about it. If you're on Facebook, just compare the number of emails you send on a personal level to the number of messages you sent on Facebook. If you do notice, if Facebook was not out there, chances are you would have sent more emails. So that's how powerful it has become. Okay, so that's a bit of statistics on Facebook, a bit of boring stuff. And I thought I'll take some examples from magicians on Facebook. And first magician who I would want to highlight is, of course, David Copperfield. How can you not mention him? If you look at David Copperfield, he has about 329,000 people who have liked his page. And if you look on the left bottom corner, I have taken some statistics, about 4,200 people who are talking about him. When you mean talking about him, the number of people who are interacting, maybe through messages, maybe by liking one of his posts, by sharing his posts, commenting on his posts. So that's actually a big number if you look at the number of people who are interacting. So on this, actually what I'm focusing when I say Facebook, I'm not talking about the Facebook profiles. Most of you, when I requested you to register or send or fill the form, the online form on Google, most of you had actually sent your personal Facebook profile, which is different to a Facebook page. Because a Facebook page, the limitations of a profile is, and why I would suggest you not to use a Facebook profile is, a Facebook profile is very personal. So if you do want to limit to your friends and not be known people, uh, stick to a Facebook profile. But as an entertainer, if you want to be out there on social media and you want to allow anyone to interact, use a Facebook page. The link I shared on Night of Illusions was a Facebook page. But if you look at a profile, my personal profile is uh, named as Yasas Gunaratna. That's me. And actually, for those of you who sent the personal profile link, I uh, I actually sent you a friend request. Some of you have already accepted it, but that's at a profile level. But if you want to be on Facebook, create a Facebook page. And once you have a Facebook page, anybody who's on Facebook could just simply go and click the like button, and they'll be following you. So uh, probably in a follow-up session, I'll talk about how you could, you know, uh, analyze things, the insights you get from a Facebook page, how to advertise on Facebook, and so on and so forth. But today I'll be just talking at a high level on what a Facebook page is all about. And as you can notice, a Facebook page could contain photos, photo albums. You'll have basic information about you, which you can update, even contact information if you want to publish it. You will have posts. So I've actually taken a particular post about what David Copperfield has posted. So if you look at, there are 54 people who have shared this post, which is again an important fact, because for you to improve on Facebook, you will obviously need to improve the number of shares. So make sure, this is a common rule on social media. When you post something, there will be things that you feel you prefer to get shared, but it does not necessarily mean that people will start sharing it. The general rule of thumb of social media is people would always share something that is unique, something that they feel that nobody else has seen, something that is of interest to them. And definitely the normal tendency is people out there want to be the first to share it. So it's like a fad. It would have a high frequency of sharing within probably few hours or few days, and that's it. Thereafter nobody wants to share it, it's stale content. So make sure, if you do have a Facebook page, have interesting things. It might be about you, it might be about magic in general, it might be about entertainment in general. If you look at David Copperfield, he generally shares stuff of him, his programs, things he has done, uh, celebrities who has visited his show in Las Vegas, MGM. He shares about his Copperfield Bay. He once in a while shares about his daughter Sky, about his fiance, and so there are certain things, if you go through his profile, which are of interest to certain people, and certain things which are very personal. So for a celebrity like David Copperfield, of course, even personal information about his daughter and fiance can be of interest. But in majority of most of our entertainers, I don't think it would be even relevant to post such things unless your kid has performed something quite nice, or there's a cute video about your kid or something of that nature. It really doesn't mean sense otherwise. So the important thing, once again, have unique content, interesting content, not for you, but content that you think would be interesting for your audience. That would improve the shares. Also, if you do have a Facebook page, there's a particular place. Maybe let me kind of show you. Give me a second. Let me quickly touch on that. I wouldn't want to go into detail, but let me just quickly show you this. Sorry, that's me for those of you who haven't seen me. Okay, so this is actually this is what my Facebook page looks like. So if you do now, recently Facebook upgraded their, sorry, I thought it got shared. Yeah. So recently Facebook changed the layout of their Facebook pages. And this is what a new layout looks like. So if you look on the top, there's something called insights, which are actually where the statistics are posted about your page. So there are a lot which I'll talk about on another day, but what I want to talk about is if you go to the visits tab. Okay, just give me a second. Sorry. If you go to the posts tab, on the posts tab, you would see by days the number of visitors to your page. Okay, so on this would give you an indication. So looking at this, I would see most of my visitors are on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And if you go further down, you would see the times that they would interact. So if I take Friday, or if I look at it on average, uh, most number of people interact on my page at 9 p.m. and the least would be 3 a.m. So if you have your own page and due to convenience you just start posting things probably 6 a.m., 7 p.m., 8 a.m. in the morning, it does not have an effectiveness. It does not reach your audience. So the best thing is always look at this insight and identify, okay, which time should I probably share my posts. I would rather say 9 p.m. because it's the peak. Don't select 9 p.m. Probably from now, in my case, it would be from 6 p.m. to probably 8 p.m. would be the best time to share something. Yeah, that's the time. Picking up from 5 p.m. because I think people finish work after 5. You would basically see people will be interacting more, because the important thing is when you post things, because people have access to many other pages, chances are them not seeing your post is quite high. So you need to find the effective time to share something, and generally I would do that on a Thursday or Friday. And what I've seen through experience on my page is after noon, after lunch, you see maybe people are bored, it's Friday, on a party mode, chances of seeing or getting a post shared after noon on Friday is quite high. So these are the kind of things that you need to basically look into when you talk about your social media platforms, or when you post things. So just insight. Coming back to this is David Copperfield's Facebook page. So you can like, you can follow, you can message. I've messaged him several times, but haven't got a reply yet. Uh, Obviously, it's not him who's managing his page. So one important fact again is, if you do manage a page, if you do receive messages, please respond. That would build a lot of confidence with your audience. And remember, word of mouth is the most important type of marketing you could ever do, because it's generated by another person and it's hardly influenceable. So please make sure when somebody posts something, when somebody likes it, when somebody comments something on your post, thank them, encourage them. If they message you, reply. That would increase, the virality of your pages. This is again Jason Letimer. Again, a very active person on Facebook. I see him posting something almost every day, and his posts would include not only about him, but mostly about illusions. It could be optical illusions. It could be, illusionary photographs, and so on and so forth. So again, interesting content, and his theme is all about illusions and stuff. Okay. This is something recent which I've just picked up. Probably the Illusionists 2.0 would be coming down to your city. I would encourage you to go to their Facebook page. They're doing something unique. They have profiles, albums of each of the performers, and content from their performances, which is, as a brand, not as a person, as a brand, they're kind of promoting the whole show, the Illusionists. Of course, Dynamo, if you're more into probably, I'm sure most of you would have seen him. If you notice this blue icon, it means it's a verified Facebook page. That means Facebook has verified this is officially Dynamo. I'm not sure whether David Copperfield has one. Looks like not, but Dynamo is a verified thing. And if you look at him, why I took him as a or his page as a Facebook page is because you have 79,960 people talking about his content, which is a lot more than what David Copperfield has. If you look at the total number of likes, he has over 4 million likes. Okay, so at a very high scale, and if you look at the information he has additional tabs, additional apps to have merchandise from him, and about his autobiography, the books on sale, and blah blah blah. And if you look at the about section, he has all the social media that he interacts with listed down there. Again, I suggest visit his page. It's quite interesting. It has a lot of insights that you could take home. Okay, with that, let me move on to Google Plus. Oops, just give me a second. Okay. If you look at Google Plus states now 300 million monthly active users, which is not as big as Facebook, but let me tell you why you need to be on Google Plus. If some of you have been following the social media platform or social media news, Google Plus recently, or rather Google recently introduced something called Google My Business, where they're integrating all Google services for businesses. So Google Plus is one area that they're integrating into it. And remember, anybody who has a Google login or a Google username password can have a Google Plus profile. But again, like Facebook, a Google Plus profile is different to a Google Plus page. And here I'm talking about having a Google Plus page as your social medium. Okay, so don't mistake this for your profile. Once again, the mistake I noticed when you posted your URLs, most of you sent me the Google Plus profile, not the Google Plus page. And actually, unfortunately, when I did some research, I couldn't find much Google Plus pages of the popular magicians as well. So I had to take someone out of the magic industry just to show you how a Google Plus page should be like. So going back to the statistics, 20 million unique mobile monthly users, and one other reason why I would strongly suggest you to be on Google Plus is because of the ability of improving your search engine optimization, what is known as SEO. Again, a different topic we can talk about in future. SEO is basically when somebody types on Google or any search engine your brand, your name, or for a keyword, if they type, for an example, magician from Texas as an example, the ability to have your page, your website, or your contact details listed on the first page of the search engine is actually getting what you mean as search engine optimization, commonly used in websites. If you have your own website, just do a search based on the keywords what you feel that people would type to find you, and see whether your website appears on the top or on the first page of Google or any other search engine, which is very important, because when people look for you, when they look for a performer, when they look for an entertainer, when they look for a magician, if your details don't pop up on a search engine, you're gone, because the first person who gets up there would have the higher chances. Think about it. How many pages down would you go on Google to find information? For me, it's never past the second page. So in that case, if your details are appearing on the third or fourth or fifth page, it makes no sense. Excuse me. So being on Google Plus, it actually helps optimizing yourself on Google search engine, because obviously it's Google platform. And if you do notice, just after this session, just go and type your name, type your brand on Google, and see whether any of your details appear on the first page. If it does, most probably it will be your Facebook page, It'll be your Google Plus profile. It might be LinkedIn, and most of the time it's whatever you have listed on a social media. Okay, so that's how powerful it is, and very important. And also, Google Plus integrates with Google Maps, YouTube, and other Google services, which is quite important. Now, when I hosted this session today, I had to use Google Hangouts. The reason is because I could share slides free of charge compared to any other site. So if I use Skype, for an example, I'm not marketing Google, but if I use Skype, I have to have a paid account to share slides on a webinar. So that's the whole reason why I went with Google Plus. And I believe Google Plus would allow you, Google Hangout rather, would allow you to have about 17 people interacting, and it's connected to YouTube, which I'm sure most of you are viewing this webinar through YouTube, which is, if it's a Google Hangout on air, it's unlimited viewers. The Olympics and everything was on Google Hangouts on air, which is again linked to Google Plus. So I used my personal Google Plus profile actually. Yasas G is my personal one, but what I should have done was use the Night of Illusions Google Plus profile in terms of hosting this. But I felt in this case, rather than getting my brand, the important fact is using my name. That would because it's nothing to do about magic; it's about social media. And the other cool option I would talk about is greater photo features in terms of tagging to enhancing to editing. Google Plus is the best out of the all. Fine. So some of the Google Plus profiles, again, the only person I found who was having at least a large number of viewers and followers was Dynamo again. So if you notice, he has about 926,000 followers. In Google Plus, you don't have likes, so if you want, you can follow by pressing that follow button. And there could be viewers who are not following but who would visit your Google Plus page. And if you notice, this is again a verified account. This icon over here stands for a verified account. Uh, in 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 the case, since I couldn't find Google Plus profiles, I just took a Google Plus page of one of the entertainers or magicians who are connecting for today's webinar, just to show how Google Plus page is about. This is not an advertising or a marketing thing, but in the absence of not having much pages, I thought I'll just take one of your pages out there. Again, you can have contact information. You can link your address with Google Maps over here. Automatically YouTube. I'll just probably show how my Google Plus page is, so that you'll get a better understanding. Again, Murphy's Magic was another page I found, which has again a considerable number of followers and views. And one of the best pages I've seen is Sir Richard Branson's page. Not a magician, of course, but as an entrepreneur, as a Virgin brand, uh, if you notice, 6 million followers and 222 number of views. Again, the important thing is there's content shared almost every day. Interesting stuff, from quotes to crazy photographs to events they do, a lot of interesting things. And that's exactly why you would see his Facebook page and his Google Plus page attracts a lot of visitors. So I suggest you to strongly go and visit his page, just to get an idea of, if you do have a Google Plus page, how or what sort of content you should do. So let me quickly just let me if I quickly take you to my Google Plus page, just to give you an insight. Where is it? Okay, here we are. So this is what a Google Plus, sorry, this is my G Plus profile. So if you go to the pages, my computer is acting funny. Here we are. This is how my Google Plus page looks like. So if you just notice, you would have an about section where you have information. You can link your websites to whatever the information you need. Your YouTube channel will automatically get linked. Then you have posts like on Facebook, like the timeline where you have all your posts. Then you have photos similar to Facebook where you can have your basically you can have albums and other stuff posted, and then YouTube, which also is linked in automatically. So that's the beauty of Google Plus as a social medium if you're using. Okay. Of course, the page was not active till I created this webinar, so you don't find any followers. So maybe I am following few, but you don't see followers from my side. Okay. Getting back to the slides. Just give me a second. Here we are. So the next platform I'll be talking about is YouTube. Some statistics: more than 1 billion unique users visit YouTube each month. It's considered the second largest search engine next to Google Plus. It's not even a search engine, but if you notice, it's now categorized as a search engine because many people would go to YouTube to search things rather than Google or any other search engine. Over 6 billion hours of video are watched each month on YouTube. As it says, almost an hour for every person on earth. 100 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute due to mobile phones also now. And if you look at Android, which is a platform from Google, has also supported in increasing the video content and photo content. 80% of YouTube traffic comes from outside the US. YouTube is localized in 61 countries across 61 languages, and according to Nielsen, YouTube reaches more US adult ages between 18 to 34 than any cable network. That is why, if you notice, most of the cable stations, TV stations, do have their own YouTube page, YouTube channel. You don't call it a YouTube page, you call it a YouTube channel. And YouTube is test marketing the facility and ability where you can subscribe to YouTube channels, rather subscribe into a paid form. So very soon you'll see more cable networks on YouTube, and for you to access those channels you'll have to pay in future. So that's how powerful YouTube has become. That's the whole reason why Google acquired YouTube, because they saw the potential of YouTube. So if I take some examples again, Jason Letimer, the statistics to notice is the number of subscribers. The more subscribers you have, the more interaction you'll have on your videos, and obviously the lovely feeling would be to hit million views on a particular video. So if you take a YouTube channel, this is what a YouTube channel, the home page would look like, and you can have links to your social media pages like Google Plus, Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth. You can have a link to your own website if you do have one, So this is an option they give, and this is like a cover page you can have, and a profile photograph. You can also have a trailer on the home page itself, and if you click at videos, you can see all the videos on your channel. You can create playlists, which I have done. I have different playlists. I have one playlist for my magic videos and another playlist called behind the scenes, because when you do post videos, the common attitude of people are, okay, those are camera tricks. So to avoid it, most of the time where I feel people might think it's a camera trick, I always have a behind the camera also, and I always have another post on the behind the camera scenes, so that just to prove that these are not camera tricks. So like that you could have different playlists, and about page will talk about information about you. So Jason has 2,703 subscribers. Excuse me, suffering from a bad cough. If you take Dynamo, he has 84,000 subscribers. Okay. Kolinsky. Why I took Kolinsky was because from America's Got Talent, you would have seen him coming up and becoming quite popular, getting into the finals. He has almost similar number of subscribers like Dynamo, and if you notice, Dynamo was leading from Google Plus to Facebook to so on and so forth. But when it comes to YouTube, this guy Collins Key has 81,000 subscribers compared to the 84,000 subscribers to Dynamo, closer to Dynamo. And if you notice, one thing he does is he posts videos almost every week, which is something you need to do. So if you're out there, please make sure that you create videos. This is the best way to give social proof. This is the best way to get people to know what sort of things you do. And I strongly suggest YouTube to be used as one of the best ways to promote your stuff. And then spend some money probably on getting a good quality camera which would do high definition videos. If you do learn a bit of not rather animations but video editing, you could use tools like Adobe Premiere, which is of course used by professionals as well, or most of the cameras would have their own photo or video editing software, which also is good enough for you to have. So maybe you need to spend some money on getting the start bit of your brand and stuff. So once you do that, it's done forever, and then you can edit rest of your video. So that's what I do. And for those of you who are quite interested to do it online, YouTube itself has an editor tool. So if you type youtube.com/editor, it's a free editing software. So you can upload your videos, you can trim them, you can combine videos, you can do basic transitions from a clip to clip with basic effects. So try it out. If you are on YouTube, youtube.com/editor is a URL for the free editing tool YouTube has. If you notice, Collins has also on his video given the links to his social media platforms, which is again interesting. So the moment people see a video, they would also see this. Okay, and same thing, he has linked his websites to his social media platforms. Cyril the magician from Japan, unfortunately being so popular, he has only 254 subscribers. Okay, which means he has not focused more on YouTube. Darren Brown, 34,670 subscribers. And just if you notice, just notice how important this cover photograph is all about. It adds value. It brings in that nice effect on your YouTube channel. So I noticed some of you do have YouTube channels. I went into each of your YouTube channels, I subscribed to them, but most of you didn't have an attractive cover photograph. So I suggest that's the first thing for you to do after this session. Spend some time and do an interesting cover photograph. Okay, then we go on to Twitter. We are 10 minutes from 1 hour. Probably I might have to take a few minutes more. Maybe we need to take 30 minutes, maybe 20 more minutes on this session. But don't worry even if you have to leave early, because this session is a Google Hangout on air, so it will automatically be a YouTube video, and Jim would most probably share it on the Magic Classroom. So even for those of you who missed it, who registered and missed, and those who were not able to view this webcast, they'll be able to see it after. Twitter. Some of you had inquired about Twitter as well, saying, hey, what is Twitter about? Twitter is more than a social media, it's called a microblog. Because a blog is blog, the word stands for web log. So it's like a personal log or a diary that you maintain. So Twitter is a microblog. Microblog means you could send fast text. In fact, before I started this, on my Twitter, I just tweeted. Anything you post on Twitter is called tweeting. That's a word they've coined. I tweeted about this webinar. So anybody who wants to follow me, who follows me on Twitter, can basically, there's an option with a mobile phone which you can click, which means if you have given your mobile phone details, you'll get a text each time somebody tweets about uh, tweets on that page, if you have subscribed to the mobile option. Else you would just see whatever the tweets that they have posted. I'll quickly show it, and also I have some terminology which would explain tweets and hashtags and so on and so forth. So the important thing is it's good to share experience, which is good and bad. Companies consider Twitter as a communication medium. As I suggested at the commencement of this webinar, I wanted you to use #KOI tag for any questions which I'll answer. So if you look at events today, they use hashtags to create this communication interaction online. The bad side of Twitter is once you post something, you can't retrieve it, unlike any other social media. Google Plus, Facebook, you can always edit, you can delete something you posted. So people who have seen it at that moment only would see it. But on Twitter, you can't do that. That's the downside. As I said, you have a free SMS subscription option. It's real-time interaction. When you post, it just goes there. That's why most of the celebrities and politicians in the world use it. So it's like a free communication medium out there. And it's good to improve customer service because you can respond to questions and queries. So some statistics, over 645 million registered Twitter users, 135,000 Twitter users sign in every day. Number of unique Twitter site visitors, 190 million, 58 million tweets per day, 2.1 billion search engine queries, and 43% of Twitter users use their phones to tweet. I would suggest if you're bad in tweeting, use either your tablet or your mobile phone. It would increase the number of tweets you post. Again, Dynamo is a good example of a good Twitter profile. 23.7 thousand tweets, photos and videos posted, and there are about 2.18 million people following him. And this is what tweets would look like. It's actually something retweeted by Dynamo. Don't worry, I'll talk about. So he has like reposted something someone else has posted. Again, Jason Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller, Darren Brown, and of course David Copperfield. Okay. So Twitter terminology, hashtag is any word that begins with a hash sign. So you can create your own or you can use one. As I said, #KOI for Night of Illusions. You can create your own hashtag, but when I looked for #KOI, there were already people who are posting things on #KOI, but that's fine. So for an example, let me quickly go into my Twitter account. Okay, so if you notice, if I go to my home, these are tweets by people who I'm following, And this is the tweet I mentioned, few minutes away from webinar on social media for magicians and entertainers. So I've created #KOI. When I click on that, I would see all tweets which has the hashtag. So nothing related to this webinar, of course, but if you see, everybody who has used #KOI would appear on this search. Now the important thing is, I would rather suggest you not to use many hashtags like this particular user over here, because it doesn't serve the purpose. Have important hashtags, but don't try to hash every word. Some people do this because hashtags are also available on Facebook and Google Plus as well. On Google Plus, they would recommend hashtags, but you can create your own hashtags. On Facebook, you can do this, but I've seen people like technically hashing every word, like saying, "Hey, I'm fine." They would say hash, "Hey," hash, hash, "fine," which is irrelevant. That's not the whole purpose. Okay. So let me just tweet something so that you would see. Having a great, oops, and maybe I can say #KOI. So when you type hash the words, you would get suggestions, and since I have done KOI earlier, it appears. But remember, when you always use Twitter, the maximum number of words you can have is 140 characters. The whole reason is because there is a possibility that people would have subscribed for the mobile option. So that's the whole reason why they limited it. If you want, you can add a photo, which I'm not doing in this situation, and let me just tweet. And once you tweet it, it's done. So even if you make a mistake, the whole world will see it. So be careful when you use Twitter for that reason. Okay, let me get back to the slides. So that's what a hashtag is all about. A mention is all about, so if you have a Twitter profile, you will always get a username. Now, in my case, it's KnightoIllusion, KNIGHTOILLUSION. So my username will be @KnightoIllusion. Sorry, KnightoIllusion. So if you want to send a message to a person, you can always use the @ and when you see a tweet, you can always reply it. If you have seen an interesting tweet, you can retweet. You can share the same tweet on your page. It's like sharing. And all links, if you do copy paste the link, if you give a web URL, it will be shortened in order to reduce the number of words on Twitter. That's what links are all about. So I've taken an image over here. So if you see #CoffeeTuesday is a hashtag. This is a mention to a particular user, the SF Daily. If you want to reply on this, you can click reply and send a message. If you want to retweet, if you want to share the same status, same tweet, you can use retweet. And if you want to add into your favorites, you can use this. A bit of Twitter terminology, which is always, quite confusing. Most of the time, people would ask me, "Hey, what are these things? What are these terminologies? What does a hashtag mean?" And I hope I did explain it to you today. Okay, quickly moving on to the last two, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is considered the world's largest professional network with 300 million members over 200 countries and territories. Now, please remember, I wouldn't suggest, you could have a LinkedIn page, you can have a corporate page, which is good. Please do have it, but it's good to have a page if you have a lot of employees working for you. Like say if you're a whole group of performers, like probably the Illusionists 2.0, or if you're like any other large performer where you have a crew, it's good to have your own company page. If not, just stick to your own individual LinkedIn profile, which many of you did have. Professionals are signing up to join LinkedIn at a rate more than 2 new members per second. 67% of LinkedIn members are located outside United States. More than 3 million companies have LinkedIn company pages. In the first quarter of 2014, mobile accounted for 43% of unique visits on LinkedIn. Okay, so some statistics. So I'll tell you the whole reason why I would want you to use LinkedIn, especially for you as a marketing tool. Most of you might be individual performers who's hunting for business, who's looking for business. And if you want to target corporates, LinkedIn is the best platform. I'll show you an example of what I did. Actually, it's not the way I do it because I do not perform, for corporate functions because of a restriction I have from my company, from Toyota. So if I do, it would be either for a charity project or it would be for general audience or for Toyota. So I don't use this method, but it's a good method for you to use. So as to why LinkedIn, this is the best place to campaign for business, as I mentioned. It's a professional network which will help you to get endorsements and recommendations. So always you could request your audience who might be on LinkedIn to endorse you, give a testimonial, give a recommendation, which adds value because when somebody searches you online and they come across your LinkedIn page, and if they click on it, if you do have endorsements and recommendations, it adds value to your profile. It's again word of mouth. It's PR, public relations. Connections will show a possibility to get introduced to potential business decision makers. Because assume you're targeting ABC Corporation. I'm assuming there's no company as such. That's why I took ABC or XYZ. If you're on LinkedIn, you can go to their page and you will, there's a chance, of course there are limitations if you're using a free LinkedIn profile, but it's good enough. You could see the number of the employees and all connections to those employees. That's exactly how you could campaign for business. So this is an example I took. So what I did was I just typed Unilever on LinkedIn. Okay, so you have this option of searching by all results or by people, jobs, companies, groups, universities, so on and so forth. So I just took a general one, and this immediately listed 3 people who work at Unilever with their designation. Sorry, I had to cut the faces and the names off in order to maintain privacy. So this is what I got. So looking at this, if you see first on the site, it means the first connections, the number of employees who are connected directly to me at Unilever. So on the left hand side, you will see I have 13, I have 1568 second level connections. That means someone who is known to me has a friend working at Unilever. That's a second connection. Okay, and third and everyone else. So don't worry about it. Most important thing is first and second level connections. So what I did was I clicked. Now this is, let's say I'm looking at this particular person. When I click on the name, this is what I got. I get the personal profile and I see 500 plus connections to this person, and I've taken the name and the photograph of who is the director HR and corporate relations at Unilever, probably the person I should contact to try to secure a position for a performance at their company event. Now I could connect directly, which is the normal way of connecting, or I could actually get recommended. So what on the side you would always see now you're connected to these are 2 people I know who are also known to this person. So looking through the connections, I can just click on the get connected button, and this is what I would get. That's me, that's the person I know, and this is the person I'm looking for. So I could just type a subject and tell my friend why you want to get introduced. So I can say, hey, say Joe Blogs, if you don't mind, could you please recommend to whoever this person is, as I'm looking for some business to maybe to perform, and I'm looking for an opportunity to perform at Unilever, and could you please help me out? And you can send the request, and this person can simply introduce you on LinkedIn to your target person, the decision maker. So this is exactly why I would suggest you to use LinkedIn. Obviously LinkedIn has its own users. If you're looking for recruitment, for HR function, to look at people's job history, that's basically why LinkedIn is used for. But I'm showing you a different way of how LinkedIn can be used as a performer, as a magician, to gain new business. And trust me, this is a very good method of getting introduced, getting into insights, and it will be a faster way for you to approach new business rather than making calls and getting appointments and making visits. So that's my take home on LinkedIn. And the final medium I'm using is Pinterest. Um, it's again more like a search engine for images. And to take a good example, the sometime back, a few weeks ago, I just saw my wife searching something, and to see she was on Pinterest, and I asked, "Hey, are you on Pinterest?" And she said, "What's Pinterest?" Without her knowledge, she was looking for some images of fondant cakes. And without her knowledge, Google had taken her to Pinterest, and she had logged in through her Facebook profile, and she was browsing through images on Pinterest. And surprisingly, I see many, especially if you look at the females, many of them would find images on Pinterest. And Pinterest is by far better than Google Images. So if you want to find images, go to Pinterest, type any name, any word, and you'll find a whole list of images. And basically, if you want, let's say you're visiting a particular magician's page, or you're visiting the magic classroom, and there's something interesting that you want to save with you, you can simply pin it. There's actually, if you're using something like a browser like Google Chrome, there's a Chrome extension called Pin It. You can click that, select what you want, and it'll immediately get like copied and bookmarked on your Pinterest profile. So that's one use. But the use I'm talking about is different. I'll go into it after I quickly show you the statistics. So you can pin stuff, as I said, from the web as a visual bookmark. So if you look at the male, female, the gender, Pinterest attracts about 54% of the females as opposed to the 46% of males, which is surprising. And if you look at the age groups, 37% are from 25 to 34 and 33% from 16 to 24. Sorry. So I would suggest you to use Pinterest. Out of all the registered users, there was only one who was on Pinterest. And I'll show you some examples. Due to the absence of examples, I actually took my own Pinterest account. So this is how I have defined it. And you can have like albums on Facebook, you would call pin boards on Pinterest. So I have 3 boards. One is on mind reading, one is on illusions, one is on magic around the world. And what I've done is, if I take mind reading, the pin board, this is what the board would be like. So I've attached images of various video performances, and I've said what the performance is all about, and I have given the YouTube link. So what I've done indirectly is I've kind of made my Pinterest profile again a video profile, like a YouTube channel. I've taken screenshots of my videos, uploaded it as a photograph, and I have linked it to the YouTube video. And hopefully what I'm expecting out of this is for people who are searching for mind reading, illusions on Pinterest, to get the chance of showing my pin boards and getting more traffic to my videos, getting more information through it. So this is how you could actually use Pinterest. So if I do click on this pin, this is what the photograph, the image would look like, and the description with the YouTube link. Now if you are on Pinterest and you like this image, you can immediately pin it and it will be bookmarked onto your pin boards. Okay, and in the same way you can like, and you can send it to someone, you can share it on Facebook. So all those options are out there. Okay, so Pinterest with time I believe would be again a popular social media platform, so I suggest you to follow it, but remember it's more image based, it's a visual method. So it does have its limitations, but again it's a good platform. Okay, so finally I'll leave this set of links with you, which will actually talk about these are some links to different social media platforms. So the first one is a Facebook, a link to create a Facebook page. So if you just have a Facebook profile and you're looking at how to create a Facebook page, use this link. If you have a Google Plus profile and you haven't created a Google page, this is the link to create a Google Plus page. And if you are looking at a YouTube channel, if you want to create a channel, this is the link. If you want to have a LinkedIn page, which I don't really recommend, as I said, unless you have a big crew behind you, This is the link, and if you want to create a Pinterest account, this is the link. So this is where I would want you to start, and please take into consideration the points I've mentioned. It's very difficult to actually bring down a whole set of information into 1 hour, but I've taken actually 1 hour and 10 minutes. So probably I'll leave 5 more minutes for any questions. So let me get back to my profile. Unfortunately, I don't see anyone who has connected to my Google Hangout session. So if you are on that, please do post any questions. If you want to, you can click on that. Or unfortunately, on the YouTube channel, I don't think you have an option to post questions. So what I will do is, let me resort to Twitter. Okay, so please feel free to tweet any questions you have. You can just post it with the hash KOI tag. Let me, that's me again. Okay, sorry. So that's the hash KOI tag. I'll basically have about, I'll give about 3 to 4 minutes. If you do have any questions, please post it using the hash KOI tag. Or if you want to tweet me directly, my user is at Night-O Illusion, KNIGHTOILLUSION. Just 4 minutes more, and we'll end the session. I hope the webinar was of use for you. It will, as I said, for if you do know about social media, if you're already there, it's nothing new. But maybe there would be few points you can take home. But probably based on the interest generated today, we can look at another session if there's any interest to go into further details. Let me try the hashtag again just to see whether we have any hash KOI questions. So far, I don't see any. If you do have any questions even after the session, please send it to those of you who have already sent me your Facebook link. I have added you on Facebook, so you can message me on Facebook, or you can probably go to my Night of Illusions Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Night of Illusions. Let me probably share my pages again. Here it is. You can send me messages to through my Facebook page, or if you have sent me the Facebook link. But if you want to find me on Facebook, it's not difficult. Facebook.com/, I think it's yasas.gunaratna. Or if you search for Yasas Gunaratna, you will it won't be difficult to find me. This is how you spell my name: YASASGUNARATNE. What I'll probably do is I'll ask Jim to share this information. So if you do have any question after, even you could post it to me. Okay, let me just once again try the hashtag just to see if there are any questions. It actually means two things: either you did understand everything, which is good, or you understood nothing. So I hope it's the earlier point that you did understand the session. It's a bit upsetting to know there aren't any questions. I probably can give 1 more minute for questions, and then we'll end the session. And after the session, once you try it out, just please feel free to drop me a message and share your newly created Twitter accounts or Facebook accounts or whatever. That would be nice. Oh, Vince has actually posted a question. I have asked a question on YouTube event and Google Plus pages. Okay, let me try that. Oh dear. For some reason I don't see it on the session, but let me try my Google Plus pages. Oh, here it is. You suggest identifying the time of day slash night that your fans are most likely to see and share a post. Are you saying that fans respond better to live content that is as it comes in? Okay, let me answer that question first. Yes, the reason is what really happens is when you post something on Facebook, it appears on the home feed of all Facebook users. So if they are following your Facebook page, it appears on their home page, on their home feed. Now the problem is if they do if they say it later in the day, due to having a lot of friends, a lot of pages they've subscribed to, your post will be probably right at the bottom, and chances of them seeing that is quite less. Of course, if they follow, there's an option where you can follow, there's an option where you can sign in for a notification, which many people don't do. If that is done, of course there's a chance of your post getting seen even later. But in general, when you go to a Facebook page, you will just like it, and that's it. You won't subscribe for notifications. In that case, if you are not online, and if there are many other posts that have gone from the other pages after your post, chances of your post being seen on top would be quite less. Okay, so therefore that is why I would suggest you to post it closer to the time that you find more engagement on your page. Then the next point is, since they can see posts whenever it is convenient for them, does it truly matter? Okay, I think I've answered that. Yes, you're right. They can still read what you posted on Wednesday at 7 a.m. Yes, but chances are, as I said, unless they come to your page or unless it appears on their home feed, chances are they can miss it. And think about it. If you have subscribed or if you have liked many other Facebook pages, chances of you missing content is still available unless you're there during probably an hour's time frame here and there. For me, it happens. I have over probably 1,500. I can't remember the number. I have over 1,000 friends, so I do miss a lot of content shared by my friends. Simply because I don't like check my Facebook every 5 minutes. So chances of seeing it is better when you notice the time people engage with your pages more. That's the whole reason why I said that. But you're right. There is a chance people could still see it after, but effectiveness is more towards the times that they are logged in. I hope I answered your question, Vince. I'm sorry, I forgot that I hosted the Google Hangout on my personal profile. That's the whole reason I've not been seeing your questions. Steve Hart, thanks for your comment. And Roberto Correa, thank you once again for your comment. So I think it has been a bit of a longer session, 1 hour and 20 minutes. And since we do not have any other questions, let me just refresh one more time to see. Yes, Vince, I have answered your question, so I think you got a reply. Yeah, I think I will have to end the session. Thank you very much for connecting in, and once again I hope it was of some value to you. And please do subscribe, like, follow my pages, and If you do have any questions, I'm always there to help you out. I'll share my contact information uh, with Jim as well. So if you do want to connect later, we could do so. So I guess that's about it. Thank you very much. And once again, like Jim Carrey says in Truman Show, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Thank you very much.